You're listening to Tim Laskus with Coach Wherever, Life Coach School Podcast, episode 27.
Welcome to Coach Wherever, Life Coach School Podcast. Each week, we dive deep into coaching solutions to help you reach your personal and professional goals. Here's your host, Dr. Tim Laskus.
Well, thank you for joining me again. This is Tim Laskus, and I have a episode today that I've been struggling with for a while. I wanted to put it together, and I kept putting it off. And the reason being, it's real personal for me. And so today we're going to talk about stress to breath and the impact that stress has on us. But there's something that we certainly can do to help turn things around. And I wanted to share a really touching personal story with you, and this goes back to 2012, October 27th. And on this day, I woke up with my wife, and we had plans to go up to North Carolina to a Renaissance festival. And on this particular day, they were going to have pirates as kind of the theme, and so I had invited my mom and dad to meet us up there from Greenville, South Carolina, where they were living at the time, and so they did, and we drove the hour and a half, and they drove the hour and a half. We met there, and we had a fantastic day spending at the Renaissance Festival. We had some great laughs, and there were several moments that I remember. One in particular where we were watching a pirate comedy show, and I remember looking over at my dad and after one of the jokes, and I don't even remember what the joke was, and I just remember seeing him laugh and his smile and hearing hearing that laugh that I've heard for the majority of my life up to that point. And we had lunch, and we just enjoyed almost the full day. And in the evening, we decided to call it a day, and they were driving back home, and my wife and I were coming back to Columbia, and they were going back to Greenville. And so we kind of followed each other out. And he had followed, I was driving, and he had followed me to the highway, and then there was kind of a split in the road. And as I kind of went off to the exit, my dad had passed, and I remember he was, wearing his hat that he loves. It's kind of like a tropical, hat that he had. And I remember just kind of looking at him because the exit that we had wasn't a sharp turn. It was just kind of a slow merge. And I just watched him as he passed, and he was just driving and just going straight ahead. And I don't know what it was, but it caught my attention. I was just looking at him. So once we got home that night, and we had dinner and went to bed, and later that evening, I got a call from my brother, and he asked me if I'd heard from my parents, and I said no. We had spent the day with them in North Carolina, and he said he had received a call, and he could hear some voices in the background, but he couldn't determine what it was. And I said, well, they, again, should have been home, and I don't know. So I did some calling, and he did some calling, and come to find out there was an emergency with my dad. And so my mom, she told me, she said, I need you to come to Greenville, and something's going on with your dad. And so I knew at that moment, I'm like, oh, my heart dropped. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. And I just remember telling my wife to, let's jump in the car, and we got to go to Greenville. And so we went to the hospital there, and I remember going in and seeing my brother and my mom, and they were crying, and they were saying that my dad had passed. Well, as you can imagine, I was in shock. And so I go back to see where he was in the room that they had him in. And he was covered up to his chest, but I just remember walking over and just hugging him and putting my face next to his face and just saying how much I loved him. So this was and has been one of the most difficult moments in my life. Seeing someone that you care about. And my goodness, this was, 7 years ago. And I'm still emotional today. And so this is why I struggled really kind of putting this together and sharing this story. But the reason I did is because there's a lot to learn from this. I've learned a lot. And some of the work that I've been doing as a life coach, mental performance coach, was really impacted by this, specifically as it relates to the impact of stress and what we can do with it. So, heart disease, which was interesting to know that, according to the CDC, it's one of the leading causes of death amongst men and women. And what was even further fascinating was that regardless of race or ethnic background, socioeconomic status, it is one of the leading causes of death among everybody. And some of the stats that, it was noted that one person dies every 37 seconds in the U.S. due to heart disease. That's incredible. So by the time that you've already listened to this entire episode, several people have already passed away of heart disease. And one of the biggest factors leading to heart disease is stress, according to research. And so stress is a leading indicator that increases blood pressure. It encourages people to look for a way to, manage that stress, whether it be overeat, whether it be drink alcohol, or even smoke. Stress really is a factor in kind of creating this surge, this wave of bad behaviors that impact us overall. And so stress really kind of starts the ball rolling for many people and leads to that increase in blood pressure, that uneasy feeling that we've all experienced. And so what we do is we look for a way to try to navigate those difficult moments and to relieve that stress by smoking, drinking alcohol, overeating, you name it. And when it comes to overeating, I'm definitely guilty at times when I'm feeling stressed, and man, nothing tastes better than a cheeseburger and fries. and that's one of the worst things for you when it impacts you in a negative way. And what goes on physiologically basically is that we have an area of the brain called the amygdala, which is kind of the emotional center. And when we're under stress, the amygdala will sound the alarm, and it's as if, the alarm bells are going off, and this in turn goes back to our hypothalamus, which is the area of the brain that is kind of the command center, so to speak. And it ends up kind of triggering our sympathetic nervous system that something is going on, which is our fight or flight response. And I've talked about this in other episodes about this fight or flight response and how it's a state of panic, and it's a built-in mechanism for survival. Going back to caveman days, and when you would see an animal that was dangerous, your heartbeat would go up, it would increase, your blood pressure would go up, your eyes would dilate, and you would be ready to fight or flight. and it was a survival mechanism. And today we still have this, and it's triggered in a number of ways. And it doesn't have to be coming upon a bear or a mountain lion or something like that. It could just be opening an envelope and you see a medical bill and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to pay for that? So that a medical bill or a bear can pretty much do the same thing when it causes that sound of alarm within your body and kicks off the party of stress. And so, what do we do? Here it is. The stress is a part of life. Stress can lead us to dying from heart disease. But what can we do? Well, there's a variety of things we can do, and you have some options. You could kind of go the traditional way of taking medicine and making some lifestyle changes, which certainly has an impact. But there's also something else you could do to take matters into your own hand, to have more control over the stress response and more control over your health. And that is using your breath as a way to reduce stress, as a way to reduce your blood pressure, as a way to be able to cope with stressful situations that are going on in your life. And some of the research on breathing exercises is amazing. There's a Harvard Medical School cardiologist by the name of Dr. Herbert Benson, and he developed this relaxation response, which included yoga and meditation and progressive muscle relaxation. And kind of the basis of all of these is breathing. Breathing is kind of that common factor, and using breathing techniques to be able to get control of that stress, to be able to reduce our heart rate, to be able to feel relaxed and get us out of that fight or flight state. And so, how does it work? Well, let's say that you wake up one morning and you're just feeling tense about the day that's ahead of you. You have a lot going on. You're starting to feel tense and you're starting to panic. So your normal kind of body response would be to have these short, shallow breaths, or even at times hold your breath, and that makes you feel more panicked and more anxious. But what you can do is to get control of your breathing, take a moment to sit down, breathe in through your nose, deep belly breaths. These aren't upper diaphragm breaths, these are lower diaphragmatic breaths. In this, I call belly breathing. As you breathe in through your nose, your belly is going to push out. As your belly pushes out, you're going to fill that lower cavity, and that's a larger volume of air in that lower area than at the upper. And so by doing that, you're going to get more oxygen that rushes through your system, your brain, gets into your blood, and gets to your muscles and all the groups, the muscle and organs and things within your body that's going to de-stress you. You're going to start feeling more relaxed within less than 30 seconds. So one way that I typically do it is to sit, close my eyes, focus on my breathing and what that breath feels like in my nose as I'm breathing in. Belly is pushing out. Hold for 3 to 4 seconds. Exhale out through your mouth. And then repeat. And do this 3 or 4 times. And this will trigger your other system within your body to relax, to slow down, to bring your blood pressure down, to bring your heart rate down. And in fact, if you have one of those Fitbits, you have one of these, there's lots of watches and other things that are out there that measure your heart rate, you can actually see the difference. Your heart rate will start to lower. And in fact, you can do this. And some people, by just going into the doctor's office when they get their blood pressure taken, it may be a little bit higher than it typically would, is because just going into a doctor's office for many people makes them feel stressed. The sights, the sounds, the smells, everything that goes on within the doctor, you're automatically at kind of, you're in panic stage. And so, of course, they take your blood pressure and it's higher than normal. And so one of the things you can do is to use your breathing techniques prior to going in and while you're in the office. And you'll notice that you feel much calmer, and you may see that your blood pressure is actually lower than it might be if you didn't use that. And so breathing is a wonderful thing to be able to not only just de-stress, but helps you to combat many mental and physical illnesses, whether it be heart disease or anxiety or depression or PTSD or a number of physical and mental conditions. So it puts the power back in your hands, and no longer do you have to just kind of rely on, oh my God, let me just deal with it, or let me just take some more medication. And again, I'm not anti-medication. If you're on medication that's prescribed by your physician, then you should continue to take it. But breathing exercises is another way to combat what's going on with you. Regardless of what kind of condition, you can always use deep breathing techniques in order for you to relax and to be able to manage your state of mind. Maybe you're a student who's an adult learner who's going back to school. You're stressed about being able to take an exam. You haven't done that in many years. I encourage my students to do exactly what I've been talking about, is to use breathing exercises prior to taking exams, prior to going into any situation that creates undue stress and anxiety. And so, again, you get the power back in your hands. And if you would like to do some of this work with me, I'm going to have some free groups coming up where people from a variety of backgrounds with a variety of conditions are going to get together, and we're going to practice this, and we're going to set goals, and we're going to report back to each other. And so it's a support group. It's a way for you to learn this. It's going to be free just for a short time. So if you go to coachwherever.com on the homepage, and you'll see a link to sign up, and you'll get on our list, and then I will let you know when the next free group is coming up so that you could be part of a community that's learning these breathing techniques, and you'll have an opportunity to share your story prior to and after learning these techniques. And so you could see the real benefit. You get to hear other stories. You get to share your story. You're surrounded by a community of other people who are like you, who want to feel better, want to feel less stress, and who want to be able to just live life again. And something I'd like to leave you with today is, before you go to bed tonight, you're sitting home with your family, or maybe you have friends over, and look around and look at them and just wonder, like, what would it be like for them if I wasn't here? And I know it sounds kind of a very strange thing to do, but I would like you to do that because your friends and family would deeply and terribly miss you. And so if we're not doing everything we can to give ourselves health and another day, another chance to be able to live healthy and to have these experiences, have another year, 5 years, 10 years with our loved ones, I wish I had that with my dad. And so that's why I shared that story, that, man, I wish I would do anything to be able to have another day with him. But looking back, I know I had a fantastic day. And if it was going to be the last day, that was a wonderful day to spend with him. But, I know he was under a tremendous amount of stress. And later to find out that he had a heart condition. He was on blood pressure medication. So, if there's somebody in your life who, has a condition, and this is something that you could also teach them to be able to relax, de-stress, so that they can live a day without stress, that they can live a happy day, and you have more time together. So thank you. I appreciate your time. Send me an email, tim@coachwherever.com. Let me know what you're thinking. Also, be sure to go to coachwherever.com homepage and sign up for the free breath group. Until next time, take care. Thank you so much for joining me today. I would be very grateful if you could subscribe and leave a review on iTunes so that we can continue to grow in this very crowded podcasting space. Also, if you'd like more help in your own growth and success, head on over to coachwherever.com, where you'll learn more about our weekly Success Sessions groups. I look forward to seeing you there.